What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Continental Belts. When you're under the hood, do you ever notice how often you see Continental belts? There is a reason for that. Continental is one of the world's largest original equipment suppliers for the automotive industry. Automakers around the world insist on Continental for original equipment belts. The US, Big Three, BMW, Volkswagen, over 30% of all new vehicles sold in North America. You know what that says? It says Continental knows OE because they are OE. Continental's OE Technology Series Multi-V belt for the automotive aftermarket are precision engineered for perfect fit, form, and function with a true OE pedigree. They're the belts engines already know, so you can confidently spec Continental Multi-V belts. There's one for 98% of vehicles on the road today. You might not know it, but Continental is a leader in automotive technology, electronic components for things like autonomous driving and accident-free zones. That focus on innovation is in every product they make, including OE Technology Series aftermarket belts. We are also brought to you by Beeline Coffee. The Roasted Tire 3.0 is in the store now. This is the third generation roast collab with Beeline Coffee and the Smoking Tire. The first one had the Mustang on the bag. Second one had the Safari 911 on the bag. The new one's got the Lamborghini Countach on the bag. It is delicious. I've been trying it the last couple days, and man, every time they come out with a new version of the Roasted Tire, they really evolve and refine the formula. The beans are still from Honduras. They are spectacularly delicious. And if you use code TIRE at checkout, that's code TIRE at checkout, you get 15% off your entire order at Beeline Coffee from your friends at the Smoking Tire. Lastly, as part of our ongoing collaboration with Blip Shift, now through December 9th, we have 2 shirts in our Blip Shift store. Go to thesmokingtire.com and then click on the store tab, and the first shirt is the Quick Like a Fox Fox Body Tribute shirt. I like this shirt a whole lot. It's only on sale until the 9th. The second one is our California Dreamin' shirt. 100% of the proceeds of the California Dreamin' shirt, 100%, are going to go to the California Fire Foundation to help them assist in the recovery with the horrible wildfires that we had here in Malibu, as well as up north in Paradise. As of today, December 2nd, we have already raised over $10,000 for the California Fire Foundation, but you're only going to be able to buy that shirt through December 9th. So get it now. Go to thesmokingtire.com and click on store, and that'll take you straight to our dedicated Blip Shift store. It's, I mean, on top of being a good charitable donation and good, you know, helping people that need help, it's actually a rad shirt. I ordered 2 for myself. I'm gonna rock it, so I'm really excited about that. All right, on the podcast, returning for what I believe is his 3rd appearance, one of our most popular requests ever. The man is a legend, 61 years in the automotive industry. He invented many cool technologies. He holds many patents. We go through some really interesting projects he's been working on currently in this episode, as well as telling some stories from the past, as only Gale Banks can do it. Gale Banks in studio on this episode of the Smoking Tire Podcast.
Well, hold on a minute. I want to know what that blow black thing is, but you tell me in a minute.
You bet.
And welcome, folks. Hello, everybody. Hello, live people. Hello, home people. Hello, people who are listening later. It's the Smoking Tire Podcast on a Tuesday afternoon. Part 1 of a doubleheader. We're doing a doubleheader today, Gale. I got another show at 6. It's a lot of yapping today. Gale Banks, the legend, is in studio of Banks Power, and Jay Tillis. How are
Howdy.
you, sir? Welcome.
Good.
Welcome,
Yep.
sirs. Good to have you back. Gale, you are one of our most requested guests.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of nerds in the out there in the car sphere.
Yeah. I stir that up quite a bit.
And they love hearing your nerdery on nerdness. and so for those of you who are joining us live, and based on the response to my earlier posts about this show, there are many of them. Get your questions for Gale in the super chat now, because we will almost certainly overflow and have to call it at a certain level, because we get a lot of questions from folks these days. Anyway, welcome back to the studio, guys. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you. Traffic was light. It's good to be here.
Coming to Culver City's kind of cool.
Yeah, you've been in this game for quite some time, and I'm building a facility over across the street here to store cars in, and in doing sort of research on artwork for my walls,
yes,
I have learned that Jefferson Boulevard right here earned the nickname Thunder Valley in the 60s. Do you know anything about this?
It's one of the places I money raced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about...
We went all over the place. There was... we'd come over here. We'd go to out to the San Fernando Valley. We'd go down by the blimp hangars at Tustin.
Yeah.
We'd go out to Harvey's Broiler in Downey. And there was a neat piece of concrete road in Gardena where we would street race, and the spectators would sit on this sloping ground in a pet graveyard, dog and cat graveyard.
This is creepy already.
Oh yeah, it was.
But right here outside the studio on Jefferson Boulevard, which is now surrounded by WeWorks and Playa Vista and expensive apartments, it was like, the Edelbrock factory, and was Dick Gildstrand was here as well, I think, right?
Yeah, 10,000 RPM. What the hell who was that guy? There was a number of them.
Just right here.
Yeah.
And they used to street race right outside this office.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You almost need like a plaque on the street, that said, these guys raced here on this day.
Well, I'm looking for like some old school photography to hang on the new place, but I figured Gale would have been there.
Yeah, I was there. I was reflecting on Edelbrock.
Yeah.
It was a brick building, kind of had a roll-up door in the middle facing the street. And when you went in, on one side was an office and some inventory, and the other side was a place where Bobby Meeks was building engines, and on and on and on. Bobby Meeks, Murray Jensen, these guys were Vic Senior's front line. And just reflecting on that on Facebook with a friend the other day.
Good times?
Yeah. Dick Gouldstrand. Really great road race driver, but also suspension. He was good at Corvettes and other things, and I introduced him to turbocharging.
What year are we talking about?
Oh gosh, in the 70s probably. A young man that was working there at the time is now the managing director of the NHRA Museum, Larry Fisher. It's just, if you do it, this is my 61st year in the engine business. And if you do it long enough, you go through generations.
But I'm old enough. Grandkids.
Iskey was in the area, Iskandarian cams.
Yeah. Actually, I think that building is still there.
Ed never sells anything like he.
Do they still make cams? I think I don't know if they're still in business, but there's still a building right around the corner. I think it's a Jefferson and Slauson.
Yeah.
That says Iskandarian cams on the building.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Family still own that building.
I think that's his first location.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
A lot of history here.
He accumulates stuff.
I was just at the Honda Museum as well, and they were telling me about the first ever American Honda dealer, which is on Pico, and is now an actual massage parlor.
Way to go downhill.
Where'd you say that was?
Good. Yeah. It's like 10
Let's
something.
wrap up
Pico.
this podcast.
Yeah. Let's all get happy endings.
So about 2 hours ago, Gale and I are standing in the office and we're going over some ads we're about to place, and one of which is in Trailer Life in Trailer Life magazine.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because because it was all the towing guys, right? You're talking about like family trailers, that type of thing, fifth wheels, and Gale pulls out an old ad that used to be one of our most popular, and it's got a line of people on the header of the ad. It's got a bunch of statistics and how we beat the competition, but his eyes immediately gravitate to the line of people, like the employees, and he
that
goes,
was our staff.
That was the staff. And so Gale looked at me and he goes, dead. Dead. And I was like, oh man.
My God.
Yeah.
This is
not that everybody that works at Banks dies.
No, I should hope not.
But when you're there running 61 years, Jesus, you outlive all of them.
I've gone through generations of magazine guys, generations of employees, and generations of competitors,
and generations of vehicles as well.
Yeah.
I mean, now we're starting to see now, companies I drove a Lexus recently that has its last naturally aspirated engine. You know what I mean? It's everything has a turbo in it now.
Oh,
and
why? Why would somebody be so foolhardy?
Look, in some ways,
say hallelujah, turbocharging.
In other ways, I don't know. In other ways, sometimes I drive an NA engine and I go, I like the feel of this. This is good.
Well, the exhaust always sounds better.
It does. Although some companies,
especially if it's uncorked,
some companies are really figuring out. I feel like the Mercedes, where they put the turbos down in the V, they find a way to make to make it sound nice.
Yeah. You can still hear them through the turbos. It's just not as loud.
Yeah.
They're kind of a bit of muffling device.
Yeah, but you can use a much smaller muffler, right? If you've got turbos, right? Because they provide some of that.
Preferably
effect.
No
muffler at all.
Stylists are all about the looks, and engine guys are all about the sound.
Yeah.
And if I can put your eyeballs on the back of your skull, even better.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I like it. I like huge torque.
1 G of acceleration is nice, and 3 or 4 Gs is wondrous.
All right? How fast of an acceleration pull is 3 or 4 Gs?
Oh, a top fuel car will do that easily.
Is that what 3 or 4 is? Is top fuel?
Yeah.
What's the most you'll see in anything you could drive on the street? What's a 9-second car? Is that a G and a half?
Yeah. Initial, it kind of diminishes as you get in the wind, so to speak. The drag going up to the square of the velocity. So, in fact, we were talking about that on the way over here. It's one of those things where
you're talking about the weight of air.
Yeah, I'm talking about air is the key to all power. In other words, it's not the fuel. It's the air. When you hit the gas, you're really hitting the air.
Because you're pumping, because an engine is an air pump? Is that why?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just the more air you flow through it, the better, and fuel is just a means to do that?
Well, you usually measure air in volume, like a cubic foot.
Or like a 5-liter engine is a measurement of air, right?
It's pumping volume.
Yeah.
So 5-liter engine pumps 2.5 liters every revolution.
Okay.
It's 4-stroke engines pump half their displacement every revolution. Or every 2 revs, they pump their displacement. The key to power is how much does that 5 liters of air weigh?
Wait, what? Okay.
Confusing, right? So it's
I'm confused already. You said one sentence, I'm lost.
So how dense is the air in each cylinder?
It has.
Okay.
It has to do with density.
Oh, all right. So by boosting it and pressurizing it, you're making it heavier, like a full scuba tank compared to an empty scuba tank.
Amen.
Okay.
Dead on.
Gotcha.
Dead on.
I need a scuba diving analogy.
Good
That's
analogy,
all I needed.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what I needed.
That's a turbocharging analogy.
Right. Okay.
You're compressing the air, making it more dense. So the point being air-fuel ratio. What does that mean? Well, you're mixing pounds of air with pounds of fuel.
At a certain ratio.
Performance gasoline engine, my rule of thumb, my default is 12-1.
Okay.
In fact, I've even named the color on the porcelain in a spark plug. When I hit the right color, I call that color 12-1.
What color? What is the?
It's
what is
kind
the
of
color?
a light gray at the base of the porcelain. It's a band around the base of the porcelain where it goes into the shell of the spark plug.
Huh.
And you don't want to see anything but a white porcelain, a metal colored, not a blue ground strap. If your plug has a ground strap, there's many plug technologies. But the point being, back before we measured air fuel ratio with an O2 sensor,
Yeah.
Which didn't happen until about 1977 or 78. Volvo and Bosch came up with the O2 sensor, and I built the first computer-controlled O2 sensing engine in the world in the back of my speed shop in San Gabriel.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, like any technology you can bring up, he's like, yeah, I built the first one of those.
Well, I did this one because Volvo gave me a contract back then. It was a monster amount of money. It was $30,000, and I did. They sent me some red block B21, 242, and
242, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, those were ugly cars.
You know what though? But the cycle is complete because they were so ugly that now they are classic.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're worth money.
But
at
the time, I kind of looked at them and I went, "These guys must hate cars." then it occurred to me that people at Volvo were building people who hated cars were building cars for people who were afraid of cars.
Okay, yeah, say the safety features. Yeah, it's a car for non-car people. Yeah. They build Priuses now.
Yes, they do.
Oh, okay.
Those folks' kids now build Priuses. There's a 240. That's lovely. See, that coupe is lovely. You ever see one of those done up as a race car? They look pretty rad when they're done up as like a DTM car or a rally car.
Go back to about 1976, and they're uglier than that. That's the spiffed up one.
The early ones were pretty bad.
They had come up with this office furniture beige paint on one of them. The other one,
there's the second row. There's the office furniture beige paint. That's what you're talking about, right?
That's horrible.
That one right there.
Yeah, okay. I'll give you something, Gale. That is brutal looking,
isn't it?
Yeah. You can make anything look cool if you put fender big box flares on it and a wing.
Imagine my shop where there's these Corvettes and these Camaros and these Mustangs and all this stuff going on.
Got a new project for you, boys.
Area. It's a muscle car era, I should say. And those I got two of those in the back lot. It's overhead cam, 4-banger, but I actually kind of went out of my comfort zone with this deal because I was into turbocharging very early, actually in the 60s. And this O2 sensor technology, God, I had to know about that. So I got to do the first hot rodding of an O2 sensing computer injected. Think about this. This was carburetor time, points and condenser time. And you got this thing that's got fuel injectors, for God's sakes, and they're not mechanical.
There's an electronic fuel injector in that car?
Well, let me think about that. It was electronically modulated. I can't.
You're taking him back.
You've blocked the Volvo 244 out of your mind.
So, but the bottom line was the O2 sensing, and that, to me, was that was tomorrow. That was absolutely what I knew would be a commanding technology going forward.
Because now you can monitor this stuff in real time.
Yeah,
real time, right?
instantly.
As opposed to pulling out a spark plug and looking for the color.
Exactly.
Was that the method before?
That was it.
So
you read the plugs. Art
you
Chrisman,
just looked at the color of the plug?
Yeah. Art Chrisman taught me how to read plugs.
Is that taught anymore ever? Does anyone?
Not at all.
Is there
guys look at you with this, what? You still read plugs if you're supercharging or turbocharging a car that was formerly naturally aspirated. You're still reading the plugs for temperature. In other words, your air-fuel ratio is not the issue anymore, but plug temperature is. So you're pumping more energy into the cylinder, and consequently the plugs are running hotter. Mm-hmm. So you might have to come down a heat range or two.
The science of colder plugs or hotter plugs was always something that really confused the hell out of me. Can you explain what the point of those?
It has to do with keeping the plug warm enough that it doesn't foul or collect deposits easily, but not too hot such that it starts cracking or blistering the porcelain or that sort of thing. So
is it literally the temperature that the porcelain is at?
You're controlling the running temperature of the plug itself.
Okay. And how what's the increments?
Hotter is lower power, less cylinder pressure. Colder is higher power.
Oh, okay.
More air density in the cylinder, more fuel being burnt.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. So does that leads me to your little fun black boxes here, because I think you go from reading a spark plug color to developing an O2 sensor to now you have this crazy little black box that you brought.
So I've got a couple of them I bought.
Now let's explain this here.
Hold this
Matt.
up to this camera, Timmy.
I want to do. So Matt, so you understand what we started with here.
Oh, yeah.
I think you see this.
Yeah.
So let's start with this. This is the actual I-1.8 super gauge. All right.
Okay.
And this is how you would get it. Well, of course, it would come in a box, but it's an OBD connected gauge.
Okay.
Currently,
so I've seen these before.
Right. So you've seen this.
Yeah.
So what we did is for SEMA, we said, hey, we need to be able to way to show these to our friends and whatnot. So Gale said, let's just put it in a box. And then we connected it to the Air Mouse, which is an ambient air sensor module.
Okay.
And we put a lithium-ion battery inside. And now, I'll let Gale explain it, but to the common person right now, you'd buy it like this. This would go in your car.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's go back to where we were reading plugs.
Yeah.
So back in the day, Moon Equipment Company, which was a speed equipment manufacturing deal, Dean and Buzz Moon, out in Santa Fe Springs, came out with an air density gauge. And guys would use them. They'd jet their carburetor or the mechanical Hillborn fuel injection or whatever to get the plug color they liked. And they keep a little record book. Mm-hmm. Everybody had a little book. And they had a density gauge. The more serious guys had these air density gauges, and they read in percent. So you might say, well, okay, what's 100%? Well, 100% is what we call a standard day. Used to be sea level,
right?
60 degrees Fahrenheit, and the barometer of air pressure reading of 29.92 inches of mercury. You've heard of that barometric.
Yeah. Would that be like the ideal day?
Well,
that's the best day.
Actually, the air pressure in this room right now is 29.9 inches of mercury.
So we have a perfect room?
We're right there. That's the old standard day.
Well, we should really be building an engine dyno in here instead of recording a podcast.
Well, I'm going to predict for you. What the engine would do with the air in this room.
Okay.
On various fuels.
Okay.
That's what this power cube is all about. I decided I wanted to have the modern equivalent of that old density gauge. Now, what did you do with that? What did you do with that information? Well, if you had your engine perfectly tuned, plug color was right, everything was happy, and you went to Denver.
High altitude.
High altitude, less ambient air density. So every cubic foot your engine pumps now has less air in it.
And there's a math formula for horsepower loss for altitude.
There is.
Yes.
This will tell you exactly what it will be. But basically about on average, 18 to 19% of air density is lost going to Denver. And as a result, that's the power loss. Why is that? Because you can burn less fuel now. Mm-hmm. You got to have the air to burn the fuel. The air comes first. So the air density up there would be about 81%. Back in the day, if we went to, they have a drag strip in Denver. So if you went up there to race, and a lot of the guys still do this today with mechanically fuel inject, like a top fuel car or a top alcohol, whatever. That's mechanically fuel injected still. They look at the density gauge. Actually, they get a lot of readings from NHRA. They have a weather station every track.
Yeah.
And they get readings on what's called density altitude. The density altitude, by the way, in this room right now is 1,260 feet. And then they get what they call water content. Relative humidity tells you how close you are to having the air supersaturated. In other words, the relative humidity is in this room. I hope I have it on here.
Uh-oh.
Yes, I do. It's 58.9%.
But is that the same as if I look up the... That's not
you
the same
guys
as if
must
I look
sweat
up the
a lot
weather.
in here.
Do we?
Well,
is it humid in here right now?
No.
I do wish we had
right
windows.
In the middle. We're right at 50%.
We had windows that open. I wish we had those. We don't have those. We have to rely on our air conditioning.
Well, the humidity probably will go up as we talk.
But if I look up the weather right now, the weather in LA it's 71 degrees and it's what percent? And it's 0% but that's precipitation. That's
different.
That's a chance of rain type of thing.
Right.
Whereas you're talking about
some weather apps will give you the relative
they
humidity.
probably will. But it's like, would 100 mean raining hard? Is that what that means? Or would 100 mean you're in a pool?
100% humidity, you got rain.
Okay.
Man, it's raining.
Right. But does it mean you're in a swimming pool? Like, is it like if this room was full of water, would that be 100?
It's not the same.
Okay.
What it means is
I'm an idiot, by the way, in case you're wondering. I'm very stupid.
It's called dew point.
Oh, okay.
Dew point is the temperature at which you have 100%. If you have 100% humidity at a given temperature, water starts to condense out of the air.
Oh, okay, cool.
Like
and then you get rain.
Well,
then you get dew
on
your
the
car.
outside of the right.
The water in this bottle is cold enough that it's below the dew point.
Got it.
So water vapor condenses out. As I'm talking, we've got like 49% relative humidity. If I blow into the sensor, my air mouse is mounted to the top here. It's this little guy. You put it in the nose of the car. If I blow into it, the relative humidity, which is that number right there,
it's going up a little bit. All right, now you're up to 57, 58, 65, 75.
There you go.
Yeah. So your breath is nice and humid.
We're all contributing to the humidity. Every time we exhale, we're adding to the humidity in the room.
Now, why is this so important? We're talking about humidity, and a lot of people are probably thinking, why? Humidity, engines.
Why it's so important is the water in the air occupies part of the air. In other words,
less oxygen if there's more water taking its space.
Water vapor does not contribute to combustion in an engine.
Period. It just takes up space.
Right. So every cubic foot, therefore, on a high humidity day has less oxygen in a cubic foot.
So what's worse, high altitude or high humidity?
Humidity can only swing power from 0% humidity to 100. Depends on the temperature of the day, but about 4%.
Okay. So altitude's worse
to Denver
for your power.
is 18, 19, 20%.
Yeah. And then what's like Pikes Peak?
Oh.
Like
let me tell you,
Sorry, I just blew
I
the top off this one.
You've seen the Freightliner, right? That he
Yeah,
raced up there?
Mike. What's
Ryan.
Mike Ryan. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys would want to see a really cool video
Google
on
Mike
YouTube.
Ryan Pikes Peak. Tim.
Well, size matters.
Freightliner, Pikes Peak. Right.
You got to see the YouTube video. Size matters 2, number 2, and just put in Banks Super Turbo, Mike Ryan, that kind of stuff.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's a picture of the truck doing the video down at the container terminal in San Pedro. So.
Yeah, he drifted. So the first one was Pikes Peak, and then he came back, a year or two later, and they did a whole session down at the terminal, like down there at the
truck
port.
Gymkhana.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. So basically, I wanted to develop what I call a super turbo, which is an engine that's supercharged and turbocharged.
So you get the low end grunt of the supercharger and then the top end power of the turbos.
Engine response, throttle response, is really density response. How quickly can I increase the air density in the intake manifold? That's what has to happen for throttle response. So if you look at a gasoline engine with a throttle, that's
like
that's an
throttle.
air density regulator.
Okay.
When you're idling, it cuts the air density way down to maybe 30% of a standard day.
Okay.
When you open the throttle all the way, you're hoping for, if you're a hot rodder, 100% air density in the intake manifold.
Same as the outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your air filter system and the ducting under the hood heat and restrict, so you got hotter, lower pressure air, that drops the air density.
Okay.
So the Suburban we drove over here has a 8.1 liter engine, and it's an older Suburban, really big block Chevy. And, right now the air density, by the way, is 100% in this room right now.
Yeah.
So
that's good air, right?
That's damn good.
That's good air.
That's
we're
really
breathing,
good air.
We're breathing some good air in here.
We got to live near sea level to get that kind of number. But
yeah. Well, I think this room is probably 12 feet above sea level, maybe.
Got it.
It's pretty low.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
Well, you're going to have to buy a boat. I mean, global warming is going to do you in.
Don't remind me.
Yeah.
It's
or maybe just backstroke around.
So the magic.
I'm backstroking.
So the magic, Matt, is that there's no other gauge that we're aware of that does this. Kind of the point of the story here is that you can run this in your car today. Go ahead.
Why did we do this is the question.
Well, my question is, does this gauge, which is cool, change the behavior of your car, or just give you more information for your own knowledge?
I'm using the information this gauge can produce to manage the turbocharger and manage the supercharger. And I'm just finishing this patent application this week, manage the intercooler.
How do you manage an intercooler?
You
can control the flow of cooling of water through it?
Well, some of them have water through them, and some of them are just air to air. So I'm not going to talk about it until I file the patent.
Well, I guess in theory you could throttle those things through
you might
an
be able
intercooler.
to, in theory.
Yeah, right? Do you control the flow, or do you block off the fins with a sort of sliding blocker?
Well,
uh-oh. Here we go.
I'll give you one. The Ford EcoBoost V6 and the pickup trucks has an air-to-air intercooler, and it was too much intercooling in cold weather.
Oh, is that why they put the rubber thing on? Do they put the rubber thing on?
You've seen the rubber thing.
Well, no, I had a Ford Focus RS.
Same thing.
That came with a little rubber thing on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, why put this intercooler here and then block half of it off? And they said for cold climates, it was getting too cold of a charge. And they said, in Southern California, you can just yank that little guy right off. And I did.
Yes.
So I'm sorry, continue. Yeah, the rubber thing. They block off from the factory part of the intercooler.
You pulled the thing out.
Yes.
That's called poor man's intercooler management.
I then got a better intercooler after that. Mount Tune made a
You
full
did?
aluminum. Yeah, Mount Tune made a fully aluminum intercooler.
Yeah.
That was about 5 inches thick. It was badass.
So back in 2009, I got my second patent on measuring air density and showing it in the vehicle. And in that patent, intercoolers, superchargers, turbochargers are all part of the deal. I'm now just getting around. We did this military engine deal, and it took me 10 years. So it pulled me off my creative game to win this contest against all the big aerospace guys and engine manufacturers.
Which it seems you did.
Yeah,
Very successfully.
the replacement
Yeah.
for the Humvee, 100% of them will be Banks powered, and our
cool.
Banks. It's called the Joint Light Tactical Vehicle. So we got some mouths to feed. We got
Some
engines to build and mouths to feed.
Great news, by the way. They just ordered over 6,000 more.
That is
6107.
6107.
This picture
Yeah.
is on the internet, so we're just going to show it.
That's right.
So there's the
It's
Humvee.
the Hummer on the right.
Yeah. What you need is that's us on the left. So I partnered with Oshkosh Banks Power, partnered with Oshkosh Truck out of Oshkosh, Wisconsin. My gosh, and there's another one that's at Oshkosh's proving grounds. You got to go up a 60% or so grade and down one. This thing is armed to the teeth. They put a gun on this thing, and I'm not a warmonger. Don't get me wrong. I'm just a gearhead, and this I could have never dreamed of this. There's what they've done. That's got a turret. The turret is basically gone now. The gun's on the top, and the gunner is under armor, and he games the gun.
Yeah. Like an Xbox controller
Exactly.
or something. Right? Do they use an actual Xbox controller?
It's close.
I think they do. Some of the stuff they
mil-spec
do, right?
Xbox.
Yeah.
So, these guys are not pretending. That's the difference. They're not sharing it out to their friends. They're not in a worldwide competition. They're actually their lives are at risk.
But when you say this vehicle is Banks powered, are you like is it
So
block
what we
on
did-
up the whole deal?
No, I based we back in 2002 or so. The Navy asked me to do a turbocharged diesel for their certain special forces uses. So they'd previously been running big block Chevy gasoline engines, and Department of Defense didn't want any more gasoline on board a ship.
Probably a good call.
It's a damn good call.
Probably a good call.
And they would deploy these off the deck of a ship, or they deploy them out of a really serious transport plane.
Mm-hmm.
They parachute these 40-plus foot boats, twin-engine boats, with 3 big-ass cargo chutes out the back of a C-17 or whatever.
Is there a human on those when they go out of the plane?
No, they parasail down.
Okay.
Yeah. The boat crew.
So you want to talk about a scary gig? Hang on to this boat. We're going to throw the whole thing.
So basically, we had done a deal with GMC when John Rock took over GMC. He asked me to consult him on 2 different things. One was their diesel engine program that they were doing, and the other one, this was in the 80s. The other one was they wanted to do a sport truck, an image truck. And so we did a program with them called the Cyclone. We named it the Cyclone, and we went to Bonneville. And
we're talking about the Cyclone. The GMC Cyclone from 1991, like the awesome
that
pickup
was
truck.
That was our program.
Right, cool.
And we went. It was to be.
Oh, Timmy, you poor bastard! It's spelled Syclone.
Yeah,
don't
SY.
start it with a C.
So the actual racer at Bonneville, you might Google Bonneville Cyclone or whatever. Anyhow, it was to be a twin-turbo, big-block, short-bed GMC pickup.
Okay.
I wanted to go 200 miles an hour. Mickey Thompson had the pickup record, oddly, in a Jeep pickup at 144
Jeep
miles.
Pickup.
Figure.
Is it this one with flames on it?
That's the second year.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the second year.
Tell you what, that paint scheme has really aged well.
Straight out of Miami Vice.
I was giving you shit. That's funny.
Yeah, it's not my paint scheme. So
that's an extended cab. We never got an extended cab Cyclone.
We did the extended cab for the Aero.
Smart man. Subtle change, but a necessary one.
Yeah, and what we did in the bed, if you'll notice the bed, the tonneau cover only covers the back half of the bed.
What happens in the front half of the bed?
There's a rolling area of air behind that cab that makes the following air think the damn thing's a fastback.
Huh. Neat.
The drag behind the cab is reduced, and even the shape of the sheet metal, it doesn't come straight down. It kind of angles towards the bed. So the whole thing was about the Aero. The thing is a fire plug. It's like pushing a brick through the air at
there's not
maybe
a more
one-car
vehicle,
garage with the door closed into the air at 200 miles an hour. So I was going to we'd even done the underhood drawings of this twin-turbo big block. I was going to take one of my endurance boat motors, my offshore racing engines, reliable as hell.
High RPM, sustained, the whole deal.
200 miles at wide open throttle, you know, race after race on the same engines. Until the APBA banned turbocharging to get rid of us for 20 years. And then I moved on to other things. But the point being, I had this dream of a 200-mile-an-hour street pickup. The Chevy guys said, if anybody's going to do a big block performance pickup, it's going to be Chevy. We have 83% of the corporate truck market. You guys do the S15. And that's how we got into that.
Oh, and then they had
truck.
the SS 454 stinker truck.
And then they came out with
that truck sucked.
It had like a 230 horsepower.
The SS 454
240 horsepower.
That was a terrible
454 cubic inch motorhome engine in it.
A terrible truck.
Oh, and a 3-speed automatic and 373 gears. The truck had a top speed of about 88 miles an hour.
There it is. What a hunk of shit.
I own 2 of them. but you know, I had a 1,115 horse twin turbo small block.
Well, okay,
in my shop truck. That changes as
a little bit.
It transforms the truck.
6 times the horsepower will do that. Yeah. No, history has remembered the Cyclone much more fondly.
Yeah. Yeah, and the deal was, this was in a marketing meeting with GMC and Chevrolet where they took it away from us and did that. The production Cyclone would kick its ass.
Yeah, no kidding.
And all-wheel drive.
And one of the most iconic car and driver covers of all time with the Ferrari 348 and the Cyclone.
Here's the deal that was still sticks in my craw. There's the top
first
right year.
There, yeah.
That one is the first year we ran it.
Oh, that's a much better livery too. Yeah, actually, that one
the styling
does look
guy,
better.
The wheels pump salt in the air. He got it into the side of the truck. It's pretty.
That's
damn
real cool. What did that thing run?
194 two-way and
not bad.
199 one-way.
And that's with the V6, with the twin turbo 6 or with a V8 in there?
You just hit my sore spot.
It's not a twin, is it?
It's not a turbo at all.
Uh-oh.
I agreed to this. I've been back in '76. We assisted Buick with turboing their V6 Indy pace car. And I went back there and worked with the guys and all of that jive. It made the cover of Motor Trend magazine. You know, a Buick Century with a 135 horse V6. Buick. There's a lot of interrelated stories here. I hope your listeners enjoy this stuff.
Please, I assure you they do.
This is the genesis of turbocharging in the United States. So there were some efforts in the 60s, the Turbo Corvair.
Turbo Trans Am.
No, that was later. The F-85 was another one. the Firebird didn't come out till like 67, I think, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Camaro and Firebird. Yeah. So anyhow, the bottom line being, then it went into the turbo dark ages, and we had the first fuel crunch in 73, which was massive. The Arabs didn't like us helping out the Israelis in a war, and they kind of punished us by not shipping us oil. And so what was the answer at Buick? Well, let's get rid of our 455. Let's get rid of our big V8. So in 75, they had paced Indy with a
Century. This
well,
guy?
That's the turbo pace car right there.
Yeah.
So the year before,
the melding of styles on that car. There's about four different styles.
Does that thing say turbo on it somewhere?
It wasn't. It was in the Google results. Yeah.
Is that the 75 or the 76?
That's the 76.
Yeah. Okay. So they discontinued their V8. That was their answer. They had this V6 that Cliff Studeaker and his guys had done in the 50s, and it was still being produced down in South America by Rover or somebody. I don't know. They bought the tooling.
Actually, I think it was Rover. I think you're right. I think it was Rover. Yeah.
They bought the tooling, brought it back. I think they agreed to still supply engines to Rover, and they made their standard engine this 135 nominal horsepower V6. They take the Century over to the Speedway because they got the bid for the pace car a second year. And the USAC guys laughed him out of the place. It was like coming off turn 4 and going for the pits. The Roadsters will run your asses over. This is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Go away and come back with some horsepower.
This thing will do 70. Like, good job. Yeah.
So they called Air Research in Lomita, nearby here, and they talked to Walt Ware. I think he might have been the president of the company at that time, but he's an engineering guy and a racer, and he currently works at Banks Power. And Walt sent him some turbo machinery, some Air Research pieces. They couldn't figure it out. So Walt calls me up and he says, "Hey, you're going to Flint with me." And I said, "Flint, isn't that where the favorite house color is kind of a charcoal gray because they light them on fire every day?" And he says, "Yeah, that's where we're going." I said, "I can't afford to go." He says, "I'll pay your way." I can't afford a room. You can bunk in with me. It wasn't gay. It was straight. and so we go back and we advise these guys. And they're doing this as a Flint Explorer Scout program because two engineers were running that Explorer Scout troop. So it was this civic thing. It was kind of weird, but anyhow, between us and a friend of mine named Hugh McInnes, who's long since passed, he was the president of TRW Turbocharging when they did the Corvairs, and a dear friend of mine. We all advised Buick, and they finally got 300 and some horsepower out of the V6 and paced Indy with it. And then there was this big question mark Motor Trend cover with the pace car as the feature car, and the question, is Buick going to turbocharging? Well, of course.
They did.
Yeah. And through happenstance, Hot Rod was doing a project, Buick Regal, and it was to be turbocharged, and it wasn't working well for them, so it came to us, and it became, that car was a twin-turbo 454 horse, 3.8 Buick V6 we built in 1980. And that's the precursor, the granddaddy of what became the Turbo Regal and ultimately the Grand National.
Yeah. Okay, let me circle you back now.
Yeah.
We left off
we're
in
doing
military, didn't
history.
we?
We started with military
Yeah.
shit. Yeah, wait, we started with military.
How do we get here?
Well,
Because
so-
I asked if
me
you
back.
were if you were making the blocks and stuff for Banks Power.
So we did this truck to take our mutual record, Banks and GMC, from the 90s. It was like 2000, and Cummins was coming out with a new fuel injection technology called Common Rail. And I ran across the guy who ran the Cummins Skunk Works and was developing that engine and their V8 engine, which you today can get in a Nissan
And the
pickup.
Titan,
the
right?
Titan.
The
Yeah.
Titan is
Yeah,
the
Titan.
But this is like, 18 years ago. So they invited me back. I said to him, I'd like to go 300 with a diesel in my Streamliner. The record at the time was like 250 something. Are you interested? He said, oh my God, yes. We got a new engine coming. I'd love to showcase it, the V8. And I said, I'll come back and talk to your guys. There was 102 guys at their Skunk Works working on the V8 and the Common Rail Inline 6. So I go back there on a Friday afternoon and I talk to the guys and I look at the V8s and there's two engines running and one CNC machined mahogany model of the engine, a full-scale mahogany engine, if you can imagine.
That's pretty
that.
cool, actually.
Oh, it was bitching.
That sounds rad.
It was bitching. And we talk about the Streamliner. We'd been 382 with the Streamliner with a 300-inch DeSoto Hemi, like a 1950s.
Like an old?
Yes, 1950s vintage DeSoto Hemi and a 1271 on a little bit of nitromethane and a lot of methanol. So I knew the car was a Dart. I knew I could go 3 bills with almost a moderate amount of horsepower. It had gone 382 with about 1,200 horsepower. So I go back, I talk to them about the V8, I realize they don't know they don't even know the sex. Is it a girl? Is it a boy? What can it do? So I said, guys, I don't want to be a drag, but you don't know enough about this engine for me to take it and break it in front of the press.
Yeah.
So I don't want to do that, and you don't want to do that, and you don't have a customer for the engine anyway, but you do have a customer for the inline 6, and that's Dodge, and they were currently building those pickups, but they were way down. The engine plant was way down, and so were the sales of the pickups. So the consequence was Cummins stock was at about $26-27. Mm-hmm. We're normally well over 100. I said, here's the deal. Let's use your new engine. You do have a customer for this Common Rail 5.9 liter engine. It's Dodge. Let's add some excitement to the Cummins stockholder group. Let's bring some youth in here. Let's do something brash. Let's beat my Cyclone record with a Dodge pickup with a
With a Cummins
new engine.
Yeah.
So I did a program, and we got this 200 and some horsepower engine up to 735. And
Sufficient.
we towed our race gear to the salt with the race truck. Had a trailer hitch.
That's badass.
That's
Yeah,
where
I like that.
the trailer hitch and the dual parachutes, drag chutes, plugged it into the
go
same
into
hole.
That's boss. That's a
Yeah,
boss
it was
move.
so cool.
Yeah.
And we went up there and ran 222
Is
was
this
our
little
best
red
mile.
guy here?
That's
That
it right
guy,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, that looks
Imagine
quality.
that of towing a trailer onto the salt.
Fucking rad.
There are some photos of it towing the trailer. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, there are
That's-
photos and
that's cool.
videos of it towing the trailer.
That one has that livery has aged well. That's just everyone loves race car red.
Oh yeah, well, red is our color.
Yeah.
That's
Wait, so hang on. So okay, you go what is it? How fast you go? This?
best mile was 222.
Yeah, that's awesome.
On a 210 record, I think our two-way was 217.
Are you driving?
No,
Have
I
you-
only drive shakedown. I don't drive.
You don't drive you don't drive in
Yeah, but I
competition?
do get some kicks in
You got to
it.
have a go.
I
You
get
don't
some
build
kicks.
something like that and then not have a
It
go.
was my promise to my wife when we started having kids.
Okay, no more racing.
Yeah.
But that doesn't include testing.
Yeah,
Testing is
yeah.
a whole aspect.
I never told her.
Wait, circle it back though. Military engine.
So the military saw this.
They saw your little red
They
race
saw
truck.
it was a Cummins. They said, we needed a military marine engine. Can you take that engine and marinize it? Which I did.
Is that a relatively straightforward process? I mean, you just cool it with seawater, right?
No,
Isn't
it's
that
a
the
very
thing?
involved process.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you have to do to marinize a street engine?
Well, first of all, you have to make it durable at wide open throttle for more than 5 miles or 6 miles at Bonneville. The test is called a 400-hour NATO. It's 400 hours of virtually 85% of which is wide open throttle.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Except the Navy guys wanted a double NATO. I had to make.
So 800 hours?
The goal was to make it live 800 hours.
At full throttle, basically.
700 hours of which was full throttle. Yeah.
Still a diesel.
Yeah.
And what kind of RPM are you running?
Well, we
is full
upped,
throttle
we,
in a
we
diesel
upped the
marine?
RPM. The RPM at Bonneville and the RPM in the marine engine were both higher than production, which was nominally 3,000. We turned them 3,800. Still slow by gas engine standards.
Yeah, but they could gear it in a certain way, right, with a boat.
Yeah,
is it turning a traditional propeller?
These were stern drives, and so they had gears in the upper gear case and pitch and diameter on the prop, which is like gearing.
Yeah.
So we succeeded. Those engines are deployed worldwide today. GM wanted that action. We went to Southwest Research in San Antonio, Texas. It is a great automotive research facility. And they were engaged in the middle of all of this as the guys where we all met. We all met at Southwest Research, and the Navy guys and us and everybody involved. The Cummins got very interested in this too, of course, and were very open about their engine design. And we had meetings at Cummins as well in Columbus, Indiana. But the bottom line was making the engine live. Yeah, you water jacket everything. Yeah, it has to all be corrosion proof. Yeah, the intercooler water is corrosive because it's seawater, and you got to make the core out of cupro nickel so it doesn't corrode and all this jive. But at the end of the day, it was steel pistons. It was 2.8 gallons per minute per piston oil cooling.
That sounds like a ton.
It took two oil pumps to do it, one for the engine and one for the piston cooling.
Wow.
Which we drew.
How much oil does an engine like that carry? It's like 30 liters of oil or some just insane amount?
I've got to think in quarts, and I think we were around 18 to 20 quarts somewhere.
That's
in
a
there.
bunch.
We designed an aluminum oil pan, a full windage system. The oil pan had a kick-out wet sump, which is kind of drag race technology. We put the intercooler over the valve cover. We twin turboed it. We did the intake manifold. If the batteries were low and you had to cold start, you couldn't use things that glowed in the intake manifold to heat the air. We actually had diesel fuel burners in the intake manifold.
Like like diesel blowtorches, pretty much?
Yeah, to warm everything up.
Wow, just to
Talk
warm
about
the
weird.
air.
I'd never seen them before, but an outfit in Germany made them, and we integrated them into the intake manifold.
That's wild.
I tested one in one of my dyno rooms, and it turned the whole thing black with soot. It was terrible. So we did these marine engines, but we looked at the Duramax at the same time. We had them disassembled on tables at Southwest Research, and the customer, the Navy, came and they looked, and we all looked, and the Cummins internal parts look very heavy duty compared to the Chevy internal parts or the GM internal parts. The guy said, well, this stuff looks more durable, and And you've already done the 700 horsepower B.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go with the Cummins. We started getting campaigned by Chevy or GM Powertrain to take their Duramax into the military. And that was like 2004. So we came up with our own ECU to run the engines. The pickup truck ECU wouldn't work out for us. And spent since 2004 until like the award of the contract, which I think was 2016 or so, developing this engine. We just did our production NATO 400. We're now into full rate production
for truck and for the boats, or is this?
No,
are we talking
it's
about a
the same
marine?
Now
test.
all the
It's
JLTV
the same
stuff.
The same as for the JLTV, but it's just 400 hours, not 800 for the boats. Bottom line, there was high altitude turbocharging. How do we do that? We went to Pikes Peak to figure out the turbocharging for like the JLTV setup and how to control
just drive it up
there.
the side of the mountain. Forget the road.
Actually, I got with Paul Dallenbach.
Oh, I know that guy. That's the guy who sailed that crazy open wheel car off of Pikes Peak and had that horrible crash, right?
Yeah.
He's
that was our second year.
Yeah, I remember that's one of the scariest videos.
We had a crew chief rigging issue there.
Yeah.
I had really worked out, the crew at Banks had really worked out the turbo management at high altitude, the air density management. And Paul Dallenbach is one of the quickest guys on that mountain ever. I mean, he is quick. And we're going to do something again. Paul and I talk every season about this. But that was our second year. The first year, we had the quickest car on the mountain in qualifying. You do the lower third, the mid third, the upper third on separate days. Your qualifying is quite involved, and your practice. So basically, we had run the living snot out of that thing, knew it worked, but he usually runs that kind of at 80, 85, 90%.
Mm-hmm.
But race day, he's 100%, 110%. He comes off the line, hits second gear, twists off one of the half shafts.
Oh, that's bad. Yeah.
We're running like 930 Porsche stuff in the back of the car, and that was it for that year.
He was okay though, right?
He was fine with
he was
that.
fine.
But
it's just the video. The video's ugly.
Well, the second year it was very ugly and could have been more ugly. So the second year we have the quickest car on the mountain again, and man, he leaves the line, and I hear him through the trees, and he goes into that first long straight, and the throttle stick's wide open.
Oh yeah, that was it.
Yeah. He goes to lift, and now he's looking for a place to go off where he won't kill anybody. So it's a right-hander. There's a snow fence, and like a minute and a half before, there was people behind the snow fence. One of the sheriffs said, "Shoot him away." Got him out of there.
Yeah. And that's where he went.
A few heartbeats later, he goes right where they were.
Yeah, it's a real. We can't play it because we can't play videos in the show. But look at it. It's a scary video.
He cut down a few trees with that car.
Yeah, he did.
And he came out with a slight hand injury.
Yeah, I've heard.
So,
to bring up immediately that crash, I feel like I'm not doing him justice. I'm sorry, Paul Dallenbach. You're very fast. I know you're very fast.
Oh, he is wicked fast.
Wait, so this all leads into the JLTV.
Yeah, eventually.
So we did the turbocharging development on Pikes Peak, and next year we did the Paul Ryan Freightliner.
Mike Ryan.
I'm sorry.
Paul Ryan's that creep that wants to take our health insurance away.
I'm Paul. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Was that Freudian?
Yes, it was, I think. Yeah.
So
one of them is good. The other is bad.
Yes. So the bottom line being, I'd done this super turbo thing and demonstrated it to the government. Duramax Super Turbo marine engines. And they loaned me a boat. No money changed hands. I just borrowed a boat, did my engine concepts, and we tested down in Coronado, San Diego area. And successful. I didn't pursue that much further because I was doing this joint light tactical vehicle thing. The engine itself is based on the L5P Duramax. It has a Banks cast aluminum lower crankcase. Oil pickup is ours. The oil sump is our cast aluminum piece. The vibration dampener is our viscous vibration damper. The flywheel housing is ours. They build on the line. Our parts come to the line with their parts, and they build a Banks engine, a Banks version of the Duramax.
They build the Banks Duramax on the assembly line that they build
up to the point where they might be putting like the turbocharger on and the exhaust system. At that point, they put them on the racks and they ship them to us in Azusa, California. We finish all the external systems on the engine. We fully militarize the engine, give it a brain, being our AutoMind ECU, into the dyno cell, and we run a 22-minute test.
On every single engine?
Every engine.
Every one. All
And
day
you're
long,
building
every day.
6,000 of those things? Is that what you said?
We've done about...
They just re-up for 6,000 more.
We've done about 3,500 so far, but now it's amping up.
That's crazy. That's a lot of engines, man.
The initial plan some years ago was like 58,000 trucks. It's bigger than that now. It might go through 2030,
Wow.
It's an impressive
We're not
sight.
even
That's crazy.
talking. A lot of our allies want to buy that truck too.
I'm not surprised.
So my vibe on the whole thing, my gut is another 60,000.
That's so cool.
So
Crazy.
We're feeding a lot of new families in Azusa. Our family, our Banks family. My daughter Elizabeth is our ops manager for Banks Power and the engine facility. It's called Banks Technologies. We brought everybody together in our North Engineering area and served them Thanksgiving dinner before Thanksgiving, the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was neat.
And I just looked at all these people and I went,
feeding a lot of people.
How did this go from a one-man engine shop?
You have your own army.
How the hell did this happen?
That's crazy. That's
It's
so
like-
cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Good for you.
So that answers your Duramax question.
Yeah. All right. It could have also been one word. You just went like Duramax.
No,
Yeah.
you had to get the full story.
No. But it does mean I have a little less time to talk to you about a couple other quick things real quick. I watched your differential cover videos, which I found to be interesting. Really, because
there's a number of them actually.
I watched the one where you show what a piece of junk the flat cover is.
Well, I just want to know what the hell was going on in there.
Well, so and making a plexiglass cover or Lexan or whatever it is you made out of, it makes a lot of sense with fun lights and stuff. That was great.
Yeah,
but, so
stage
here's
lighting.
the question: is if what you show pretty much is the shape of that differential color cover can really determine, as well as how much fluid you put in there, can really determine whether or not your differential does actually stay cool or not.
Well, it's beyond that too. I wanted to know about the cooling. So we started with a stock tin cover and ran the thing on the chassis dyno, and we've got a setup on the chassis dyno that is so cool. We put, call it road load air under the truck and into the face of the truck with these two giant blowers.
Yeah.
And two smaller ones.
These aren't carpet fans. These are fans that simulate
fans.
60 miles an hour.
We're talking 40, 50,000 CFM. They're serious.
Yeah.
And they put out airflow at a high enough speed that the air flowing under the truck is what we measured on the road, the velocity of the air. At 70 miles an hour, back by the differential, whether we measured in front of the axle, 34 mile an hour air, 35 mile an hour air. We went behind the differential, and the air velocity was like 8 or 10 miles an hour. I kind of went, there's a aerodynamic shadow behind that differential.
Right.
So whatever you do with fins on the back of that differential,
what's
negligible.
different?
it's dead air back there.
Yeah. Well,
so,
I was wondering why. My first question is, why would somebody put that on in the first place?
well, my question was, are these things, this guy sitting next to me, he's our brand manager. He says, we want our brand on a diff cover. So the guys in the art group, the marketing group, designed him a diff cover.
Just as a piece of bling.
So we did,
with a flat back and more capacity. I don't copy anybody.
Well, we started off with the design. And we're up in North Engineering one day, and we had 3D printed about half of it. And so we were doing something else, and Gale walks in with half of the print, because it took like 60 hours to print just this one half.
Right.
And he's like, who the hell authorized this? And I said, well, you said I could run with it. We're going to do it. And he says, and he looks at me, and he has mercy on me because I'm the new guy. And he goes, okay, well, you guys don't know anything about fluid dynamics, and he erases everything on our whiteboard we had just written with his forearm, and he starts scribbling up how it would never work. And I said, wait a minute, whoa. If you're saying this design that I would just mocking up that has a flat back will not work, well, that means that Mag High Tech and PPE and ATS and all these other guys, that they won't work either. And he says, yeah, of course they won't work. I said, whoa. Wait a minute.
But you got to quantify that,
Right. So then
that
we go
led
into
us
this,
into testing the damn things.
So then we go on this 7-week testing and we followed it with video. So Gale gets on video. I point a camera at him, and he says, "Are these just bling, or do they actually do something? Let's find out." So we took our fans, and a lot of people who own these covers along the journey with us, and we uncovered that they do some, but they don't do as promised.
Well, a differential's a black box, even to me. I know how to set up a ring and pinion, but I never thought much about, other than cooling on a race car. We would dry sump the differential and cool it, and with an external cooler. So I never thought much about the tow vehicle.
Right.
And until we put one on the dyno with a stock diff cover and got 336 degrees.
That seems hot.
So you cooked the oil.
It killed the synthetic.
Killed it.
Yeah, it seems.
We pulled it out, dude, and it smelled awful. Everybody in
the North Engineering garage just went, "What the hell is that?"
Oh yeah, I just remembered what
it's worse than
diff
broccoli.
fluid is the word. Actually, I had to have all the carp I spilled about a capful of diff fluid out of a Mustang IRS in the back of a van, and I had to have the whole carpet taken out and replaced, and the metal scrubbed. It's the foulest smell on the planet.
And when you burn it, when it oxidizes,
it's even worse.
It's worse.
You're doubling down. So the point is, the differential cover on a stock differential does nothing to cool it. But it does ensure correct fluid dynamics. The guys who designed
the round shape of it sends that fluid in the right direction. So think about it
like this. The bottom of the differential housing is a sump. And the fluid's in there. And when the ring gear starts turning, it entrains the fluid with the ring gear up and around.
It's like a paddle wheel.
Cover.
It's like a paddle
takes
wheel.
It with it. And then it slings it forward and lubricates through a passage and lubricates the pinion bearings.
Yeah, like it literally
and
scoops
the
it up
bearing.
and brings it around and then plops it onto the pinion at the front, right?
The pinion gear and the pinion bearings.
Yeah.
The rear pinion bearing takes a huge side load because the pinion wants to leave the ring gear constantly. So if you overfill one of them, you're doing a poor job. Let's just talk about fluid dynamics first. You make the back cover flat, you absolutely destroy the fluid dynamics. You're not getting much fluid now forward to the pinion and ring gear interface, and more importantly, those front.
Yeah, so
because
Matt,
it just splashes it against a right
that's
angle.
exactly, it's like taking a
blows
fire
it.
hose against a wall.
Imagine shooting a fire hose against a wall versus shooting one against a bowl. It would curve it around.
Well, we did a curve back plastic diff cover first.
Yeah, that's what that picture is, and it seems like it worked.
We could see it working, yes. Yeah. But when we did the flat back, I'm standing there, and we bring it up to, I don't know, 40 miles an hour or whatever. I wanted to go to 70. And you could see the ring gear driving the fluid into the bottom of that flat surface.
Yeah.
And I'm going, and it's roaring.
I thought it was going to blow through the Lexan.
Oh, so you can hear it on the microphone,
right? You
right?
can hear it in the video. It sounds like it's going to blow the Lexan out.
That was my Lavi. Imagine how it sounded live.
Yeah.
I just went, I think mentally I'm
the
going.
Flat one. Scroll down.
And emailed you a picture of the.
Oh no,
flat
top
one.
right. Go up, top right. That one. Oh, that's just metal. Sorry, never mind.
That's still.
I think I emailed you.
Can't play the video.
Anyhow, the bottom line is.
Wait a minute. We own the video. Can't play it.
No, it's
really?
it's a YouTube software thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
go to Gale Banks Power and you'll find the video.
There might be a flat one.
YouTube.com/BanksPower, and you can just play. No, just the still.
Back.
Okay. All right.
Copyright.
The back of a flat back is not the way to go. Somebody did one first, and everybody else copied them. There are others that are curved back, but they also have low-mounted area that it blows the fluid into and defeats that ring gear entrainment thing. The other deal is if you overfill the differential, it's not a good thing. You're now you're burying the ring and pinion. You're doing work to the fluid, and that's fuel economy.
Well, you said in the video
it kills
that
fuel
it
economy.
is on trend right now to overfill. And are people overfilling because the flatbacks have more volume?
Yes.
And so they just want to fill the space with more fluid because it's more volume in there?
They're going higher than the stock fill level, and how do I say this? They want to go clear to the axle center line in the axle tubes.
What is the claimed science of that?
They get ensure that you get lubrication to the axle bearings.
Do the axle bearings need
that.
lubrication?
Yeah.
I mean, but do they
in
need
some
it like
cases,
that?
No.
Okay.
If you overfill, first of all, it's a four-quart design. The guys at American Axle Manufacturing know what the hell they're doing. The aftermarket, if you are in the speed equipment business, it makes more power. If it doesn't make more power, you're not in the speed equipment business. That's my whole approach. My entire 61 years is it's got to be better than stock.
Right.
And you don't want to build in problems. You want to solve problems. There's parasitic loss in the powertrain. If you're adding to the parasitic loss by overfilling the rear axle, nuts. What is that?
That would be the equivalent of running on a track versus running in a pool.
Yeah.
Or running in a puddle versus running in a pool.
Very good. Oh, that's good.
Yeah?
You're speaking to air density versus water density. Ha!
Yeah, there we go. I got all your layman explanations right here.
Yeah, but that's good.
So running through a puddle versus running through a pool.
Yeah.
That's the difference in.
So we designed an aftermarket diff cover that's ram air cooled.
So what does it have? Scoops that reach around to the front?
They're not lower than the bottom of the diff case. They come out at the same elevation and then curve up to the perimeter, and there's an air scoop on each side.
That makes sense.
It turns the air 90 degrees and blows it up into the fins on the back.
That seems like it makes sense. Is there do we have a picture yet of that product?
You know what? If you go to our Facebook page, I can show you.
Is there one on the Facebook page?
Yeah. So facebook.com/BanksPower.
Tim will find it.
Yeah.
I saw you the one you were holding in the video. There's a lot of fins on it.
If it's our production, I had the
you had the
bottom half.
Yeah, the bottom half of one.
Yeah, we printed it. We bolted it on, and then we filled it to ensure where 4 quarts was. So the point is that we also have grooves in the curving surface to keep the lube entrained with the ring gear where it should be.
Oh, like guide rails kind of thing?
Yes. Huh. And it gives it also more surface area.
Oh, bitchin'. Look at that
there you
thing.
Go.
That looks awesome.
So what you're looking at here is our billet prototype.
Yeah.
So where's the scoop there?
If you go to the next photo, you'll see the scoops. When he rotates it all the way around. Okay, so these are the scoops down at the bottom here.
So there you see my ribs in the...
yes.
All right. And you see the other ribs that go to the left and the right?
Yeah, they disperse it to the sides,
into the axle tubes.
Ah,
so you
now
don't have
get
to I satisfy those guys right there. And it helps the heat transfer to the outside as well. And then in the bottom, on each side of the ring gear, well, you'll see fins internal.
Are those to cool internally the fluid?
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Sweet.
To pull the BTUs out of the fluid and into the ram air fins on the outside.
And I don't know about most. I don't have an extensive experience with diff covers, but do most diff covers have none of those fins?
None.
Nothing.
Just
on
an
the open,
inside,
hollow
on the
space.
inside.
Yeah,
it's just a piece of tin.
And many of them are riddled with features that will,
lumps and bumps.
Lumps and bumps everywhere.
That make
exactly.
it.
Well, this seems like an improvement.
We think so.
It's so fresh.
And it looks blingy on the outside, too.
Yeah.
There you go.
But, Matt, this speaks to Gale and what he's about. Like, this is the first project that I've been personally witness to where he took something that was kind of just taken for granted that it just does what it does. And he absolutely, completely improved upon it. And this has been like a game changer. We put up the second and third videos hit like 5 million views, which for a little automotive company is kind of a big deal.
That's good.
And it was a lot of guys who own these covers scratching their head going, oh my gosh, I get it. I have one of these flat back covers and it makes sense the way that Gale's explaining it. How could this work?
Yeah.
And so people are now you're like, take my money. It's crazy.
Well, not quite.
Not quite. But
You got to earn.
Are those for sale yet?
No.
About 70, 80 days out.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I bet they're going to be like gangbusters.
2 things that happened. Till I got into this military thing, I patented new ideas. And
you seem to be very good at the patent system by now.
Oh God, that's hateful. I just finished.
I know, but you must have knocked the kinks out of the process at least.
I know the process, but it's still a bitch. so you have to think out every damn wrinkle. So I filed my patent on the diff cover about 2 weeks ago. We'd be exposing it, except we killed the chassis dyno, and we're putting new absorbers in it right now. That was on another thing we were testing. Bottom line though, this whole fluid dynamics, hydraulic fantasy, I hope we get results that were the results we're dreaming of.
Well, have you installed one of these on a truck yet?
Yeah, it's on a truck and we're testing it right now. Today, right now.
Oh, is it on what you drove? The truck you
drove?
No,
but it's on a truck on a dyno, and so it's all rigged and
we had a delay because of refurbishing the dyno.
Womp. Yeah. It happens.
Yeah.
Well, it looks really cool. I'm stoked on it. I thought, when in doing the demonstrations with the Lexan covers, I thought.
I'm sorry, I can't share this with your audience, but I can show you.
It looks great. It looks awesome. Yeah. Do you have a Lexan version of that?
No.
Oh, see, you got to get a Lexan version to show the demo.
Well, actually, when we did the curved back Lexan, the fluid dynamics are a little better than that one.
Yeah.
Where the fluid enters that curve and leaves that curve, we tuned those up over the stock.
Cool.
Quite a bit.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So
I'm stoked
it's
on
a
that
normal, you can't do this on a flow bench.
Yeah.
You got to do it in the truck.
Yeah.
So it's weird all the way from...
Or the car. I mean, I had a guy hit me, hey, I got an 8.8 diff in my Mustang, I said, okay, I'll do an 8.8 Ford.
You should. That'd be great.
Yeah. There's a lot of those out there.
A lot of 8.8s.
Yeah.
Do that. And a 9-inch while you're at it.
Yeah.
We got
it's a long way from turbocharging.
We got a bunch of questions from Facebook, or not from Facebook, from Super Chat. You want to go through a couple of these real quick?
Absolutely.
Send you out of here. And the
Let's
first
do it.
one from Toon Squad is one that I actually had written down as well. Thoughts on compression ignition in gasoline engines? Have you seen this Mazda Skyactiv X thing where it can be a compression ignition motor under certain circumstances?
Yeah. What Mazda did there, and early on, before the engine was introduced, we were asked if we would hot rod them for some road race stuff they wanted to do. We didn't do that, but in looking at the engine, it's a gasoline spark ignition design, and it's a diesel design. It's the same engine, different compression ratios, things of that nature. Homogeneous mixture of the air fuel, gasoline in this case, is pretty hard to do. Controlling the combustion process in a diesel has to do with the rate of injection, and shaping the rate of injection is the real current push. It has to do with optimizing the burn, minimizing the emissions, optimizing the mileage and the power, all of that. With gasoline, you can't inject and control the combustion that way. It's too volatile. So getting a homogeneous charged gasoline engine to diesel, if you will, compression ignition, is a bitch. If you can do a stratification of the air-fuel mixture in the chamber, that might be a way to go. As a consequence, I've seen 5 fuel injectors into the combustion chamber.
Into one cylinder?
Yeah. I think the French guys were doing that one.
That seems more trouble than it might be worth.
Yeah. but guys are chasing it nonetheless. It's being chased nonetheless.
It's interesting to see how people are coming up with solutions to, quote, save the combustion engine.
Well, here's the deal. The major thing that's saving the combustion engine. Remember, I said I was an early adopter, and we did pioneering in turbocharging. What I didn't tell you is I got asked to do an engine design course for turbocharged engines at General Motors Institute. As a seminar, 40-hour seminar, the week after graduation in June, in a 500-person lecture hall. Me and Hugh McInnes, who did the TRW turbo manufacturing guy, he did the turbo and how you design it. Now I did how you design the engine and apply the turbo. It was at General Motors Institute in Flint, Michigan. It was the first open enrollment class ever. So we had Ford guys, we had Chrysler guys, we had guys from the armed services that were doing a diesel ducted fan cruise missile, we had guys from an engine company doing a new inline 6 diesel, we had all these people from all over. And the last day, in the afternoon, I remember I'd done that O2 sensing thing with Volvo. I'd been through that. What I didn't tell you was a guy named Jim Curry, who developed the detonation sensor at General Motors Warren Tech Center. I built his lab engines, which were 4-cylinder little Iron Duke, that Pontiac Iron Duke thing. Even earlier, they put them in Chevy Novas and crap like that. I turbocharged it and made a variable boost setup so he could drive it into detonation and tune up his detonation sensor idea. Both those technologies existed when I did this seminar. So my summation was a O2 sensing, closed-loop fuel-injected engine with a detonation sensing technology could replace a 450, 500-inch V8 with something like a 2-liter four-banger.
Yeah.
Back
and now half-ton trucks just came out with a 2-liter four-cylinder. GM half-ton
Took them a while.
Yeah. Only what year was that? Only
38 years ago.
38 years.
39.
They finally caught up. Shit. Yeah. That's amazing.
I was preaching that at GMI.
That's amazing.
And think how it feels to me.
Yeah.
It's like,
finally,
God damn it.
Finally.
I'm sorry. I didn't. I used the Lord's name in vain. I shouldn't do that on the air.
Not a Christian station.
Well,
We're okay.
yeah.
Hang on. Taki
There's
Inui
some listening, and I don't want to offend anyone.
Oh, that's okay. They'd have been gone long ago if they were bothered by that, I assure you. Taki Inui did nothing wrong says, for Gale, 20 years ago, was car and drag racing culture more or less divided between the domestic and import tuners? And how did it feel when the hot rod folks mostly rejected turbos?
Well, I introduced turbocharging to the hot rod world in Hot Rod Magazine throughout the 80s. We finally went 283 miles an hour with my Firebird street machine at Bonneville. It was a hot rod deal from the very beginning. So the industry wasn't rejecting turbocharging. The complexity of making it work right was not obvious to everybody. So it really took a more scientific approach in the hot rodding community, which came with electronic engine management. And why do we have electronic? Electronic engine management speaks to fuel economy and emissions more than it speaks to performance in its early stages.
Right.
Why do we have all this technology? Why are we going to turbocharging? Smaller engines produce low-load fuel economy way better than big engines. When you throttle back a small engine, it's more efficient than a big engine throttled back. Less frictional and viscous and parasitic load. So how do you make the engine big? The turbo. It's instant displacement is what it is. Mm-hmm. The problem back in the 80s, I remember sitting in a meeting at Buick, and the guy from Air Research, Jack something, a big tall guy, is sitting in there, and we're talking about turbocharging the engine, and the Buick guys are beating him up regarding the cost of the turbocharger. And the cost of the turbocharger was $68. And they were saying our unburdened cost on the V6 engine is less than $68.
No way. It costs them less than
the long engine,
bucks to
not the fully dressed engine, the long engine.
Still. I mean, still.
Unburdened cost.
Yeah.
I same as you.
You're what? You're selling me a car for $8,500 and the engine's $68.
And I'm in the same meeting arguing you need to fuel inject these engines. Carburation is going to be your undoing here.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell them about Volvo, and I'm arguing fuel injection. And this guy turns to me and he says, "We're using a Rochester Quadrajet based carburetor. I can buy that carburetor for nominally $32. Banks, can you fuel inject my engine electronically for $32? And I just looked at him. I said, "You guys are going to regret not doing it."
Yeah.
And they did. They had huge warranty problems, and then they finally fuel injected.
That's hilarious.
And your Grand Nationals and your GNXs are all bitching. Fuel injected.
Yeah.
O2 sensing. NOx sensor saved the Buick turbo program, by the way.
That's crazy.
Saved it. It would have never happened without the NOx sensor.
That's great.
Yeah.
Gravity Drift says, as someone who owns both engine and chassis dynos, can you comment on drivetrain losses in the modern cars?
Yeah. Everybody wants to talk about a drivetrain loss percentage. And, you hear numbers like 15, 18, 20%. back in the day, that when we had big block Chevys producing 230 horsepower in your pickup truck, and you had close to 20% drivetrain loss, well, that was 46 horsepower. So if you look at that today, now you have a 400 or 500 horsepower engine in there, and it's still 46 horsepower. The point being that it's better to state it as a horsepower than a percentage.
So does drivetrain losses not increase with horsepower, with engine horsepower?
They increase with speed and somewhat with horsepower. Basically, if you're going the same speed up a grade, but you've doubled the load, you've doubled the horsepower, and you doubled the trailer out back, the drivetrain is still turning the same speed. Say you're going 60 miles an hour, but you've doubled the load, doubled the horsepower. I'm just as generalization, bud. Yeah. Back in the day, if you could do that with that 230 horsepower engine, you got your 46 horsepower drivetrain loss. That American axle, by the way, that I'm making my first diff cover for first application was 2001. Axle technology doesn't change real rapidly. So all I'm saying is you're going up the same grade, you've doubled the power through the powertrain, you haven't doubled the speed. So the frictional and viscous don't double. The rubbing friction, ring and pinion, goes up some. So maybe it's now 50 horsepower.
Okay. But like, let's say if I take two cars, we take a Challenger with a 5.7 Hemi, 400 horsepower, and then the same Challenger with a Hellcat, 700 horsepower. The gearbox is probably a little heavier duty, right? The differential might be heavier duty.
Sure, your parasitics might go up because you got more wetted surface and your
but a little bit.
But
it's minuscule,
but not commensurate with the increase in horsepower.
Yeah, not twice as much. Because,
correct.
No.
Okay.
So
the usual the quote common sense math of 10 to 15% is not accurate.
Doesn't fly.
How interesting.
In that car example you just gave, maybe your stock Hemi, let's throw some numbers out, is 350 horsepower, and the supercharged one is 700. Just use the numbers. You've doubled the power. You didn't double the powertrain loss.
Right, okay.
And stated as a percentage, it's probably half. Say it was 18, it's probably 9.5 now.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Same car, just...
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to see someone come out with an actual table, like the Corvette has 7.
I don't know that you could though, because there's too many variables.
Well, as you go up in speed, the loss goes up, horsepower, the power consumption. How do we know anything about this? Well, we have engine dynos and chassis dynos.
Yeah.
So you can run the engine on the engine dyno, put it in the vehicle.
Car, and
Shazam.
That was the basis of the question.
Yeah,
Thank you,
sure.
sir.
Thank you.
Let's see. Santiago says, when developing a tune, do you have any way to measure objectively how much power an engine's bottom end has before it throws a rod?
You mean puts a window in the block?
I think you just do it, right?
This is a real good question. And the answer is it's an empirical answer. You kick a rod out,
and then you go, "Yep, that's where it is."
But you sneak up on it. Every new engine design that's come out in my career that I'm interested in, I get one on the pump. I break it in on the engine dyno, and then I baseline it, I fingerprint its performance, I look at the BTUs going into the water, the BTUs going into the oil, the thermal efficiency of the engine, all this jive. And then I start amping it up until I find the fuse. What's the first thing that breaks? Then you
improve that.
Then you go to the next one. It's just how it's done. A lot of guys, I'm going to tell you this, a lot of guys buy speed equipment they don't need.
Yeah?
There's a lot of stock parts that'll go a long way.
I've heard this. I've heard this.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's like a real old school Fox body Mustang tuner guy down in Orange County.
I love those Fox bodies.
Oh, they're the best. And he says he can build he could build a 450 horsepower 302 using only parts from the Ford catalog. Nothing aftermarket.
Yeah.
It's just whatever the right combination of Ford parts you can put together that'll work. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm with you on that one. I'm not surprised. I probably bought parts I don't need. A bunch of folks have made very kind donations. I'm not going to read off all your stuff right now, but they just wanted to say hi and give us money, which we appreciate. Let's see.
Thank you, guys.
Colorado Cobra says, a daily driven 2001 Mustang. I want a reasonable daily driver with everything from Maximum Motorsports. You know those guys? Great chassis folks in San Luis Obispo.
Yeah.
It'll see autocross.
I thought you just said Colorado. His
name is from Colorado,
Okay,
but
got it.
Maximum Motorsports, the shop is in San Luis Obispo.
I hope he's not in Denver.
Oh no, man.
Or God
High
forbid,
altitude
Colorado
with a 4.6.
Springs.
He wants to know, should he do an independent rear suspension swap or a panhard bar and torque arm? You know anything about Mustang suspensions, Gale?
Absolutely. I've run them on the chassis dyno and had them freak out the independent suspension. You got to kind of nuclear harden that stuff before you get serious on a chassis dyno. Every day of the week, I could get rid of that live axle and go IRS.
Mm-hmm.
There's no... I mean, when I bought my 63 split window Stingray,
Mm-hmm.
which I sold open in my first speed shop, that IRS was the stuff of magic, and it still is.
I put an IRS in a Fox body, and it was glorious.
No, you can do that.
You can take one out of the 2004 Cobra and put it in a Fox body.
How cool is
that? It does
that?
require a little bit of finagling.
It's not rotting.
Oh, but it was rad though. I mean, up in the canyons up here, the way it would take the uneven pavement, it was staggeringly good. Sold the car for a lot of money. I got a picture of it on the wall over there. I'll show you. I say if you've got the cash or you've got the patience to do it yourself, the IRS is rad.
Although I've got a live axle with a Watts link in my Marauder.
Someone else actually was asked, one of the next questions was a question for you about your Marauder. How's that coming along?
Well, actually, I now have a new, relatively new one. By that I mean it's an 03.
Yeah.
But it has like 60,000 miles on it.
For those who don't know what a Marauder is, it was the 32 valve version, Mercury produced version of the Crown Vic.
Right, with all the cop shocks and the cop A-arms.
And the cool gauges.
Yeah, gauges in the center console, all that jive. Mine's got a Eaton high helix blower on it and an intercooler and all that jive.
Is it still a 4.6?
Yeah.
Okay. Someone asked
like
about a Coyote swap.
Like a Cobra R.
Yeah. Someone asked about a Coyote
Ford
swap.
gave me a Coyote.
Oh, cool. Will it fit?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. and that is the next deal. I'm probably going to do some QA1 stuff with the suspension. I currently am rocking QA1s all the way around on my current.
You don't notice, but they arrived in the mail.
I did coilover front.
The UPS delivered them yesterday.
The QA1s?
I'm not kidding. Yes. I didn't tell you.
Oh, Gale's got a nice little smile.
Oh my God!
That's the smile. That's the smile that only happens when some go fast shit shows up.
The guys at Willwood sniffed out. I was talking about this on Facebook last year, and they said we want to do Panther body Willwoods.
Okay.
Disc brake kit.
Yeah, I like that.
I hope they still want to do that because I want to do that.
I mean, you must be able to. They must be able to do that.
Either they've done it and don't need my car as a prototype, or they haven't done it and want to use it. Anyhow, I bought a relatively fresh one from a retired sheriff near Oklahoma City.
Perfect.
And 62,000 miles, never smoked in.
It's the only one that's never been smoked in, by the way.
Yeah, by the way.
Car most likely to have a full ashtray.
And a dude wearing a black leather jacket. So
both are totally murdered out.
But that thing, I did the coilover fronts. It's got the Watts link set up in the rear. I'm 20-inch wheels all the way around. Am I running Nittos on that
Yes,
thing?
Nittos.
Yeah, a fresh design Nitto front and rear, 8.5 front, 10-inch wide rears.
Them things are cool, man.
Buried the thing in the weeds, a little bit of a rake. Buddy of mine, Pete Eastwood, who does bitchin' Model T, hot rods, deuces, whatever, took a look at that thing and he said, man, I like the stance on that thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of just
got
a
a bit of a rake.
little nose down, yeah, bigs and littles,
Yeah. Slicks and skinnies.
Yeah. Kind of.
I worked
But
at
it's a road race. It's
I worked at a Mercury dealer in 2001. Those things were cool, man.
You did?
Yeah, I worked at Town Motors in Englewood, New Jersey. Porsche, Audi, Subaru, Lincoln, Mercury. And we sold a couple. There was those and the special edition LSs when the Lincoln LS came out.
Yeah.
Those were cool.
Yeah.
They were neat, man.
I
But
like the fact that it's a hot rod that has 4 doors.
Yeah.
And all I was looking for when I bought it was a large car rear wheel drive.
There's almost none of them left.
Yes.
You have to get a Hellcat or you have to buy a used one of these. There's
And
nothing left to buy.
The thing was sitting at the Ford Lincoln Mercury dealer near me, out in the back lot. And a guy says, "You're in the business, right? You do this hot rod stuff." I said, "Yeah." He says, "You might like this Marauder. I can give you a 8,000 off sticker. We want to get rid of the goddamn thing." And I kind of went, "Let me see it."
Because they were really expensive compared to Crown Vics, and,
Yeah.
and even compared to a Grand Marquis, I think it was 20% more expensive than a Grand Marquis at the time. They were really expensive for what they were. I think they were in the 40s. Like they were in 2001. I think it was $41,000 or $42,000. One of those things.
Not without tax and license. It was in the 20s. He brought the number down.
Yeah.
Something fierce. Plus, I had my little guy from Ford. You know
They had a little A-plan action.
Yeah, the friends and family or whatever they call that.
You get the A-plan, the X-plan.
Well, yeah,
I know how that
the
goes.
brass hat.
Yeah.
So anyhow, to me, that's my family hot rod.
Yeah, that's a rad car. I like those things a lot. Thank you, Ian. Last question before we get out of here. Tough one. Gale, thoughts on Dieselgate and Volkswagen's troubles?
Just deflated him.
Sorry,
Yeah,
should have spun it the other way.
Here's the bottom line. Here's the bottom line in my estimation. Back in the early 2000s, very early 2000s, EPA caught all the major engine manufacturers for Class 8 trucks doing the same exact thing.
Really?
Yes, really.
What is that? For semi trucks?
Yes.
I don't know.
All
I don't know
the
the
guys.
classes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, big
I
rigs.
don't think there's an exception. Every one of them, and this is not Germany. This is America. Were caught doing this, and rather than massive fines, there was an agreement that came down, a consent decree, I think they called it, wherein all the manufacturers of the engines agreed to accelerate their emissions programs to make them cleaner sooner, which also helped electronic controls of diesels. Oddly enough, the sophistication and the performance of today's modern diesel and its turbocharging come out of that, and environmentalists pushing us as well. I never thought I'd think the green movement for engine technology, but I have to. It's one of the motivating forces.
So for you, it's more just like it's the biggest story, but everyone else did it, and everyone else got caught,
I belonged at the time to the Diesel Technology Forum. It's a group of diesel engine manufacturers, a lot of the big ones, and diesel parts suppliers. Bosch was quite involved in it back in the day, and I was the only aftermarket guy. And we all contributed. I contributed like the big companies did to pushing the image of diesel. And there was a Volkswagen guy in there, and he was a legal guy from Volkswagen, very high up in the U.S. part of the Volkswagen thing. And we were talking clean diesel. We even did a thing called Diesel Days in Sacramento. We brought in a bunch of German cars that weren't imported. And the fleet stayed at my shop.
I remember this from Bosch, right?
Yeah.
There was a smart
Bosch
car and a bunch of those. I
drove the smart car all over the place.
Yeah.
The fleet stayed at my shop, and then we took it up there, and regulators and legislators drove. I was the moderator for the whole thing for 2 days. And, man, I felt righteous. When it came down that this happened, I was the second guy, I believe, to see the EPA letter. It got backdoored to me.
Yeah.
And I looked at that letter and I went,
oh, God.
Motherfucker. Oh, God. Jesus, I just went, I can't believe this has happened. It's a thing not about diesel. It's about integrity and honor and ethical code.
Yeah.
It's not about diesel. Diesel can do the job.
Right. I agree.
You know,
I think it's about being given a set of rules and then deciding you're not going to follow them. It doesn't have anything to do with diesel specifically. They came up with an impossible formula.
I can't believe that the competitive edge
sold a lot of cars.
They were looking for a little bit more. I had one. I had the 2-liter.
Yeah.
Volkswagen sport wagon, 2009, was fully road raced.
They sold a lot of them. My father had a Q7
That was my Yosemite
diesel.
car going up. I've been building a house in Yosemite for about 20 years now, but that thing went up the mountain with a little paddle shifter, the DSG 6-speed. Mother, what a sweet piece.
Well, you can buy it back for $4,000.
It's probably crushed.
Yeah.
So, actually, I sold it to the retired director of the Duramax engine plant in Moraine, Ohio. He lusted for that car, and I finally sold it to him. Only later did we find out.
Oh, this was before all that. Oh, man.
So all I'm saying is there's a new 3-liter inline-6 diesel coming from GM and the GM pickups. There's a new V6 diesel in the Ford pickups, and the V6 diesel, Eco Diesel, is coming back and is now out
in what, Jeeps?
In the Rams.
In the Ram?
And Jeeps in 2020, I believe. Sweet little engine. We sell a military version of that. We represent VM Motori out of Italy on that deal. So point is, there's new diesel 3-liter 6-cylinder engines coming. Here's the thing I think is a masterstroke on the part of the GM guys. We're talking on the way over here about inline-6 guys. And, I want to get the new Ram. Have you seen one of those things? The interior is
no, I haven't
gorgeous.
Seen it. Yeah.
My wife is telling me, you got to buy a Ram. The interior is gorgeous. She's not a car person at all. And we're talking about on the way over here, there's a contingent of guys who love inline-6 diesels. They think
the Cummins fanboys.
The Cummins, yeah.
No, it's not just the Cummins. All Class 8 trucks are inline-6. There's something to be said about that. It's a rugged engine design. Does Ram have an inline-6 in their half-ton? They have an inline-6 in their
only in the Super Duties, right? Do they have one in the half-ton?
3/4 and 1-ton diesels are inline-6 Cummins.
But half-ton is a VM Motori?
Is the V6 VM Motori. So Chevy, GM, designs an inline-6 for their half-ton.
I like this move.
Co-opting, I said, that is a stroke of marketing genius right there.
I like this move.
Yeah.
I like this move.
Well,
I like how vindictive these three are towards each other.
Well, I don't know if
it's great.
It's clever marketing.
Yeah, it works. Good for them.
And they designed the engine in Pontiac, Michigan.
Well, there you go. Thank you, Gale. Thanks for coming by. That's a great show. I appreciate having you guys. Thank you,
What
Jay.
a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Check all this good stuff out at bankspower.com,
Yep.
right? And Banks
There's a
Power
lot-
on Facebook.
Yeah, a lot going on there.
Banks Power on YouTube. You got
Yep.
diff covers. You got magic black cubes.
We've got what we call the data monster as well. This thing can data log 100 channels.
Cool.
In your car.
Rad.
The upgrade to the data monster over the regular iDash is $100.
All right. It's not
And
much.
It rivals $3,000 data loggers for
That's
$100.
awesome.
It's
I like
cool.
it.
iDash 1.8.
All right. I like the little box, too. That's a fun display piece. That works. Perfect for bringing on shows like mine.
I keep one in my house. It's my weather station at home.
That's actually a pretty cool idea. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Thanks for coming down, guys. The Smoking Tire Podcast is powered by Shout Engine. Get your own damn podcast at shoutengine.com. It's easy. All you need is a microphone, a connection to the internet, and preferably something to say. Live folks come back at 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific time because we got racing driver Cody Miles on. He races a Subaru on air suspension in Time Attack,
Wow.
which is a unique perspective
gotta be the way
on
to go.
Time Attack. And the rest of y'all, we'll see you next week. Goodbye.